What is going on, everyone? Massive news coming for the One Piece English version, and that is a brand new ban restricted card notice effective July 28th, which means it's going to be effective after the core TCG, after the PPG regional, but before the core TCG. So we're going to see immediately how the meta shakes up due to this banned restricted list. Now I know this does apply to the English card game only. I do not know if it applies to Japan as of right now. However, this is pretty huge news, and we're definitely going to see a massive shakeup when it comes to the OP03 meta due to these banned cards that are going to hit red directly. Moving into the ban restricted cards, we are going to see Edward Newgate being limited to one card. This card is one of the main strengths of the Edward Newgate strategy. You really want to kind of stall till your 9 Dawn turn. You want to play him out, and then once you've played him out, it's just you have so much board control, and being able to search him with your Ezos now, he was just too strong and just gave too much durability, and he was too hard to deal with multiple chain for some decks. So this card being banned is just absolutely amazing for the meta. It's going to limit the amount of Whitebeard that we're going to see, and it's also going to be a hit to some of the Zoro decks, so we're going to see a more balanced Zoro deck. Down to 1, I think this is a great hit, and we're going to be able to see a more fruitful meta. With Whitebeard being hit, it's going to take some of the decks that did really good against Whitebeard out because they do less well against other decks. So, you know, things that were kind of rogue, like Magellan, probably isn't going to see play because of the fact that it is, you know, it was mainly played against Newgate. So this nerf kind of tells me that, you know, Trafalgar Law is probably going to be the best red deck going into the format. Next on the restricted list is Marco. Marco is a huge hit not only to Whitebeard but to Ace as well, and also to Zoro to a lesser extent. I know there were some Zoro lists that were running this card in combination, you know, with Radical Beam and Guard Point, as well as Ezo being able to search it. And because it's so strong and so hard to remove once you get to you know lower card totals, and with that one card cost engine in Zoro and with the Whitebeard engine, this card was super hard to deal with for some decks. So now we're only going to see one of these cards in the list, and that's going to be really tough. So excuse me, Marco is going down to one card, and that is a huge hit. I know there's been a lot of complaints in the English format that Marco has been too strong, and that Whitebeard and Zoro have been too strong, and we've been seeing too many of them. So this is going to be a big hit to those as well. Moving on to our last hit, and that is OP01 Radical Beam. Another big blow to Newgate and Zoro, and honestly, a little bit of a hit to Law, but not terrible for Law. I mean, they usually did run 2 or 3 of this card, but they'll probably still run the 1. This just means that with the nerf, red decks are going to be a lot more vulnerable, and they're not just going to go down to 2 cards in their life and play this card. So they're going to play a lot differently, and they're probably going to have to run a lot more tricky counters and a lot less cards without counter in their hand. Or we'll see a lot of decks just running 4 Guard Point and 1 Radical Beam instead of playing 4 Radical Beams. So, you know, Zoro might just run 4 of the Guard Point and then 1 Radical Beam instead of playing 4 Radical Beams, because they have so many searchers, and they, you know, they're playing the Buggy, and they're playing Ezo, and they're playing Nami. There's the 1 cost engine was so strong with Zoro. So I really do like these nerfs. With these nerf additions, I really do think the meta has been shaken pretty hard, and now you got to look at, you know, what the best decks in the format are going to be. When it comes to my thoughts on the best decks in the format, you're probably going to be looking at Trafalgar Law is probably shot back up to a S tier deck because of the hits to red. I think Law really struggled with the aggression of red, and with that shift to less aggressive decks, because, you know, Whitebeard doesn't exist anymore. Whitebeard was really tough for Law to deal with, and, you know, Zoro losing access to as many of those Whitebeards, if you bottom deck one of them in Whitebeard, you're probably never seeing that Whitebeard again, or if it's stuck in your life, you're probably not seeing it until it's too late. So, Law is probably going to be one of the strongest decks in the format, mostly because it has a really good matchup against Katakuri and against Blue. And there are so many different ways to build that deck and to play it, so I think that it's really strong. I think that Yellow is going to be probably the most popular deck in the format now. I think Katakuri and Yellow Big Mom are going to be fairly popular, and they're going to be pretty much abused because of the fact that I think their worst matchup was Zoro, and their worst matchup was Red, being able to just kind of get blitzed. And Red didn't really care if you were trashing their life because, again, it was just a really tough matchup. I think Black might, like Rob Lucci, might do fairly well as well. I think it can, depending on the way you build it, it can have a rough matchup against Yellow, but if you're playing the the Admiral's version of Rob Lucci, it has a fairly even matchup with Yellow, because you have so much removal and then unkillable blockers, where Yellow doesn't have a ton of removal other than Katakuri to get rid of those cards. So I mean, I think Black can do pretty well in this format, so it really opens up the format quite a bit, and it changes the way that we're gonna see it in tournaments. I think it also opens up some room for some niche decks that maybe would have struggled against Whitebeard and Zoro a bit harder with the cards that they had access to. The only thing that I'm a bit sad is that it really kind of hits Ace really hard, and Ace is a brand new deck that we're just seeing, and so hitting that deck right before it comes out, to me, it kind of feels bad for the people that did invest into Ace. I mean, you still play Ace, but I know that the 4-cost Marco and Radical Beam were both very important parts of the Ace strategy, especially in the matchup against Yellow. So not being able to do those really makes Ace hard to play against Yellow, because you're not really playing a ton of bodies, and though you have a lot of removal, your opponent can just trash your life, and then you have to deal with those cards as they come out without really building up a board of your own. So unfortunately, Ace is going to be a lot less strong now with these changes, but yeah, great news in the sense that Zoro and Whitebeard have been lowered in their power, and I'm really looking forward to see how the meta shakes out after these changes. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Until next time, Monty out.